Hi everybody, it's Blessed Jacqueline here. I just wanted to come on quickly with a brief and short video on how to communicate with social workers, and for those of you who already have social workers, if you are raising a child with a special need, you may already have a social worker, and you may have just begun, communicating with them. And I know at times when I started communicating with social workers, it can feel like you're a bit at a sort of loss in a way. What I mean is sometimes you'll be communicating with them about things that has to do with your child and effects on the family life, and perhaps where you need support and that kind of thing, and feel like you're getting nowhere sometimes. And so in my experience of having social workers in the disabled children's team, and I'm not talking about social workers, that's there's a different two different types, or three or so different types of social workers. These social workers I'm talking about are social workers for those raising children with a disability. They are there to support you. They are there to help you find services that you may need for your family and for your children. But generally, they do focus a lot more on the children than the family, than the rest of the family, or the carer. You yourself, you'll find that there's more focus on the children. So as time went by, I found that I had to change my ways in which I was communicating with them, to reinforce or to confirm perhaps a communication, or to reinforce or follow up on something that was agreed on, that perhaps went amiss, or it was not carried out, and followed up as it should have been. So one of the things is that when you communicate with your social workers, you do need to, as much as possible, if you can, have a face-to-face conversation with them about a specific subject, that you want to talk to them about. And especially if it's in more detail, then I would advise and say that speak to them, on a face-to-face basis, perhaps with an appointment at your home. So that will bring closer to home the whole picture of what you're actually talking about. The other thing is, when you've had a conversation and you've had a discussion about that particular aspect or topic, you want to, get a point across to them, actually write down and take down your own notes, because they are taking down their notes, to confirm everything, because you can easily forget things. And then email back, after the meeting, email them back and say, this is what we discussed and this is what we confirmed, and if there's any next steps to be taken or targets to be met, then you jot those down as well, and you email them across and just say, this is to confirm that on such and such a day we met about such and such a topic and we agreed on such and such a thing. That reinforces it, so that there's actually solid evidence, so that if anything happens, or if nothing is carried out, or you feel you're not being heard, you can actually go back to the email and actually send it back across. Perhaps there may be a misunderstanding, or it may have been forgotten, or anything could have happened. You've got that solid evidence and it's written. So if you agreed on something, that needed to be done perhaps by a target date, or something you needed support with something, follow it up. If you think it's something that should have taken a shorter time, follow it up maybe a week, 2 weeks or so afterwards, after the meeting, just so that you can confirm and check how things are going. Now, during my time, of dealing with the social workers, I did come across a situation where I have felt I wasn't being heard, and after going through the processes of trying to get back to the social worker and actually finding out what was happening, and just to get feedback back, I actually had to complain officially, It's not something that I recommend you do if you don't, reach a certain point. But I had to do it because I reached a point where I was getting very discouraged. I was getting quite frustrated about an aspect, and I felt I just wasn't being heard. So I actually had to make an official complaint online. Most councils will have that. And that is the last resort. If you have a social worker that hears you out, by all means contact them and deal with them face to face or via email or on the phone. The other thing is it's quite important to communicate with the social workers relatively often. This is because you don't want to be in a situation whereby you fall out of touch with them and they put your caseload on one side. Generally speaking, it is people who actually communicate and make a bit of a noise, as it were, with them, that actually, their cases get dealt with. Whatever it is that they need help with, they are the ones that actually, get seen more often. So it is important to communicate with them often. Communicating with them as to how you are, how you're getting on, um, how the children are, how they're faring in terms of school life, in terms of family life. If you've got services from them already, perhaps you've got carers who take them out and you've got a package for them. You've got respite support or you've got short breaks. How is actually going on? Involve them in your children's meeting at the school, the IEP meetings and the end of year meetings, etc. Try to involve them, follow up with them, find out how things are going. The other thing, of course, is to do with family support. Now, family support, when I say I'm talking about family support workers at the school, they can be quite useful because they can come in and act almost like an advocate, as it were. If something is not working out, your communication needs a solid evidence. Perhaps it needs something written about the child, or you're seeking support for the child. Support workers and specialist teachers at the school are actually quite useful to turn to. I remember a situation where I was trying to get support for my second son, in terms of respite. And I was trying to communicate to the social workers about how things have changed, in terms of his behavior at home, etc. And how I felt I needed a bit more support. And he actually turned around and said, well, I have seen your child and we wouldn't qualify for social workers support. Now that was, a comment made without a carer's assessment for him, without a child, um, assessment for him to actually find out how he's actually, how he's actually getting on. That would have been a detailed picture, of the circumstances, and it would clearly have, shown more clearly if he did a carer's assessment and come and visited us as well, specifically for him, because he was already a social worker to my other child. So he officially then went on to become a social worker for my second child. Eventually I did get an assessment for him, because the family support worker actually helped me out with the written aspect. The specialist teachers wrote an aspect, which they then showed the social worker. Eventually they agreed that yes, actually he does qualify for support from from the team, the team that look after families that are raising child with special needs. So that's how he came to get his support eventually, but I actually had to fight quite a bit for that. So do enlist the support of specialist teachers, support workers. Sometimes you will need to actually get support from doctors as well. That depends on your situation at home, depends on your health, depends on perhaps the health of another member of the family. Because when you get doctor involved. The doctor might write a letter to actually solidify your case. You go and see a doctor and tell them, this is the situation, and I feel that perhaps I could do with more help. And them actually getting involved, perhaps by writing a letter, will actually help your case. You have to remember that social workers are actually working on budgets by the county councils. So for every borough or council, they do have a budget to work on. Very often, people will say, they do have to, they ring fence funds, and there's funds there for carers. And as carers, if we don't actually seek the support, that we need, the funding will actually just either be returned, to the government, or it will be used for something else. So it is our right, to seek that support, and to actually get the support we need for ourselves and our children. That was very hard for me, because there is a situation where you feel you're totally able, you feel you're totally capable. Yes, you are, and yes, you are able, yes, you're capable. But actually, that support is there for you. It is given, it is your right. It's a support that's given to you to help you look after your child, because your child needs a lot more care, than the average child that hasn't got a special need. And the dynamics change the family. So you do need that support. So those are some of the few points, that I wanted to bring on, and actually to try and help for, those of you actually struggling or starting to communicate with social workers. So yeah, that is very much a few of the points that I wanted to bring up. Thank you very much. Subscribe if you're new, and if you do like this video, and you found it useful, please thumbs up, because that will help me then decide on what topics I could perhaps talk about in my experiences. I talk from my own experiences as a mother, and I do the videos with the hope that it will benefit somebody. But if I don't get any thumbs up, it makes it hard for me to know whether the videos are helping anybody. If you don't subscribe, I don't know whether the videos are of any interest out there. So thank you very much. Bye.